GRINDSET, inside the mind of successful entrepreneurs with your host, Cynthia Daniels and William Sprague.
Fortunately, I have been able to make most things because as a business owner or, own your own practice or business period, you make the time.
GRINDSET on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Welcome back to another episode of GRINDSET. I'm your host, Cynthia Daniels, Chief Event Strategist of Cynthia Daniels and Company.
And I'm William Sprague, your favorite banker.
And today's guest is Dr. Katosha Muse. She's the president and CEO of Muse Primary Care Obstetrics Practice. She's been practicing for a very long time in the Mid-South, and we're super excited to have her and learn a little bit more about what it looks like to own your own healthcare practice.
Mm-hmm. And when you listen to this episode, what you're going to understand is that business is business. And then you throw in some of the technical aspects of your industry, but you still need to know your numbers. And Dr. Muse is going to do a fantastic job explaining that.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really great episode, and I'm excited to hear more about her story.
And we'll be right back with Dr. Katosha Muse, founder and CEO of Muse Primary Care and Obstetrics, right here on GRINDSET.
GRINDSET on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
The KUDZUKIAN Network presents Cities Now with Carol Coletta.
I'm Carol Coletta, host of Cities Now, a brand new show hosted here on the KUDZUKIAN Network. With Cities Now, we want to help listeners make smart decisions for their cities.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Little by little, the city is rebuilding itself with businesses such as urban farms and breweries.
We'll interview the sharpest people on the thorniest issues facing cities now.
Cities Now, part of the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Welcome back to another episode of GRINDSET. We are super excited to have Dr. Muse with us, President and CEO of Muse Primary Care Obstetrics Practice. Welcome to GRINDSET.
You nailed obstetrics, I can tell you that. But welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so we're just going to jump right into this interview because we have a lot of questions we want to know. Tell us, why do you choose obstetrics and gynecology? Why did you decide that particular practice for medicine?
Well, I was introduced to the OB world as an undergraduate at Tennessee State. I actually had the opportunity to shadow a physician in Cincinnati.
Okay.
It was a 6-week rotation, and I just fell in love with it. I mean, just imagining looking at a woman's face each and every time she has birth. It's a different experience every single time.
Okay.
And I just put myself in her shoes and, just to experience that every single time. It's different. It's different each time. And I really enjoyed it. And I wanted to do it over and over again, as long as I could, So, being in that lady's shoes when I had my baby, it's just the greatest feeling in the world. So that's the path that I chose and the path that I'm on right now.
Okay. And why did you choose to start your own practice instead of working with another existing practice?
Well, actually, it chose me.
Okay.
I was actually working in West Memphis at the time with the FQHC. For people that don't know, FQHCs are, community health centers that provide care to underprivileged and underserved communities.
Okay.
And
God's work.
that's where I saw myself working. And so of course, I'm from Memphis, but I chose to go over to West Memphis to do this work.
Okay.
And I really loved the facility. It was a brand new facility over with Dr. Susan Ward-Jones.
Okay.
And I actually loved it. But the opportunity came to me to start my practice was from a physician that I worked with over at St. Francis when I was a fellow or resident.
Okay.
And she was retiring. And she reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to take over the practice. And at the time, I was like, I absolutely have no money to do this. I just graduated from residency.
Now we're talking money.
I have, bukus of student loans. Like, where am I going to be able to, acquire a practice?
Okay.
And so, that's how I came to know about the practice and, try to, come up with a plan to, execute it and try to get it because, being your own boss at the time, it sounded really good.
Yeah.
So, I decided to go ahead and pursue it.
Okay. And I know my partner over here wants to ask you about finances, but I have one question you didn't touch on. At what age did you start your practice? Because you're such a young doctor.
I was 31 going on 32.
That's incredible.
Wow.
Yes.
So how do you transition from I have no money to buy this practice to obviously you're in practice now.
Right.
So talk about that mental transition and then what you did to start to garner resources to be able to buy the practice.
Right. Well, contrary to what some people may think, student loans are, even though you owe hundreds of thousands of dollars, to Sally Mae, Navient, whoever they are these days. They look at that as a different type of debt.
Yes.
And if you have a good team, your banker, your accountant, your financial advisor, shout out. They come up with a plan. And they sit you down and they talk to you and they teach you numbers. Okay. So me starting the practice, I also had to go back to business school. Accounting. Not necessarily like in a classroom, but they sit you down every week, every month, whatever it is that they have to do to get you to learn about what cash flow sheets, P&L sheets, what all that stuff looks like, and understand what those numbers mean. And how you can, make money, as opposed to losing the money that somebody's giving you,
right?
These thousands of dollars.
So how did you start where'd you find the initial money? Because you had all these student loans,
right?
You were working in a community hospital,
right?
So what do you find the money to get started? Was it friends and family, credit cards? What was it?
So the initial capital came from the bank loan. Okay. Since you have no assets, because the only thing I had as an asset at that time was probably my house.
Okay.
And I don't even think it's in my name at the time. But that's your only asset if you do own a home.
Okay.
And so, of course, they can take that as collateral. They can, you can get disability insurance, other types of life insurance policies.
Yep.
And they kind of leverage all of that, towards the loan.
Got it.
Because if anything were to happen to you, of course, you can get the money from the insurance policies. You have a disability policy and all that stuff. And so then you would sit down and say, well, I have a crew of how many people or staff of how many people.
Yep.
How much money is it going to take to at least finance this practice over the first 1 or 2 years?
Only 1 or 2 years, not 5 or?
No, because hopefully in that first, the term of the loan could be for 5 years, but it's not going to last that long, depending on how much you take.
Got it.
Yep. So I think I only leveraged, maybe like the first year and a half.
Got it.
Yeah, 18 months.
Okay, so here on GRINDSET, we also like to talk to business owners about marketing. And so, again, your field in medicine is a little different than someone just starting let's say a tech company. But how do you find your patients year one? What was that first year like for you?
So the first year, I probably saw maybe 10 or 15 patients. And like I said, since it was an acquisition.
Okay.
And hold up. In a year, like 12 months.
The first, no, you mean like how many patients I saw in a year?
Yes.
That first year.
I don't remember how many.
So it wasn't 12.
On a daily basis.
You giving us daily numbers.
Yeah, on a daily basis.
We'll take that.
I'm
about to say, that's a stretch.
Yeah, on a daily basis, maybe, 10 to 15 patients a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did they find you? How did they hear about your practice?
And so since it was an acquisition, I already had these patients built in.
Oh, okay.
Very smart.
Yeah.
That was smart, but there were some obstacles that I was not aware of at the time.
Okay. And tell us what one of them were.
So since this was an acquisition, I came into an office that was already established, meaning that there was another physician in the office space. So what I did was, you establish your LLC, you meet with, the leasing office with whatever medical building or, a standalone building. In this case, it was a medical office building.
Okay.
And you take over that lease.
Okay.
Took over the lease, shared the office space with another physician. There was already staff there as well. So I went in paying 50% of their salary as well.
Wow.
However, in these instances, I would not advise that because, you have staff that may not be loyal to you and may, be loyal to the older physician that's already there.
Okay.
And so in those cases, there have been numbers, probably hundreds of patients that, I probably did not acquire or that were mine and that I did not get, things like that.
Yeah.
So there are some pitfalls to setting up a practice like that. Initially coming in, I should have, taken the capital and then got my own space.
Got it. Well, listen, you're listening to GRINDSET, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. We're here with Dr. Muse, and we're talking about all the startup phase. And when we get back, we're going to talk about actually running a practice, hiring, firing, and getting everything up to speed the way you want it. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
You're listening to GRINDSET, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network, and we'll be right back after the break.
Inside 901.
Inside 901. I am your host, Lieutenant Anthony Buckner. Here on Inside 901, we will unpack the vision of Shelby County Sheriff Floyd Bonner and the various divisions of the Shelby County Sheriff's Office.
We have a racial profiling policy at the Sheriff's Office. We adhere to it. We expect our officers to adhere to it.
Uniform patrols that provide police services to unincorporated Shelby County.
Inside 901.
Hi, this is Dr. Katosha Muse, CEO and founder of Muse Primary Care and Obstetrics, and I invite you to catch my friends Cynthia and Brack on their inspirational show, GRINDSET. Check out the latest episodes by downloading the KUDZUKIAN app in the App Store or Google Play.
Welcome back to GRINDSET. We're here with Dr. Katosha Muse, founder and CEO of the Muse Primary Care and Obstetrics. We're talking about the growth and how you actually got into the practice. But let's talk about probably one of the biggest issues with medical professionals, and that's dealing with insurance. Tell us about how you manage your practice as it relates to insurance and how you kind of navigate those waters.
So initially, when I acquired the practice, I had a third-party company that allows you to use their electronic health record.
Yep.
In exchange for that, they bill for you. They credential you. Credential is a fancy term that they basically, acquire, all of your credentials, make sure that they're legit.
Okay.
And then they, allow you to bill through to that particular payer, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, Cigna.
Yep.
And once they establish that you are a physician, you're real, you graduated, you got your license, you can submit claims to them. You can submit claims via paper. You can also do it electronically, which is the best way to do it.
Okay.
And so once you submit a claim to them, typically, good payers will pay out between 2 to 4 weeks. And that's generally the turnaround time for that.
That's fair.
That's fair. However, that whole process can take anywhere from 120 to 180 days.
Wow. So what do you do between... What do you do for 120 and 180 days?
So someone who is in private practice or even an employer that's employing a physician,
yes,
they're not getting paid for any services they are rendering in that time period.
You're kidding.
No.
It's a hard life for a doctor,
It's a hard life, yes.
Wow.
So that's where the capital come in. So while I'm paying crew, staff, they, make appointments for you. They're doing all this work for you.
Yes.
And the companies, they will still submit claims to those insurance payers. And so, but they can still, hold up their right to not pay you.
Yes.
Some of them will pay you out of network. So that means their reimbursement may be substantially less than what you would normally get. So if they were to pay you $100, they may send you $30.
What? That's a big difference.
And you're still in business, though.
Still in business. And was able to get credential pretty quickly.
Okay.
120 days at max is I think what it took for all of the payers.
Wow.
And so after that, my first payment from a payer was $20 though. But when I saw that $20 hit the bank, I was like, yes, got a credit.
So that's dealing with the insurance companies. If they're the main payers, are patients also paying you money, and how do you work with your patients as well when money is due? When
money is due. So for patients who are Medicaid, TennCare, Amerigroup, United Healthcare, those patients don't pay anything.
Okay.
The way that you actually get paid from those payers, you have to be their primary care physician.
Okay.
And so that's the first step. So they may see me on the first visit, and just to get them established in the practice, I'll go ahead and see them, but I may not get paid for that first visit because I'm not considered that PCP. That paperwork, turnaround time is probably about a week.
Okay.
So their next visit, if they're establishing care for, say, pregnancy, you don't get paid for their pregnancy until they actually have the baby. So that's 9 months later.
Oh, my goodness.
So hold up. So I'm learning here on GRINDSET because on GRINDSET we get educated a lot, right?
Yeah.
And so seems to be a huge difference between being a doctor and then running a business of a practice, right?
Right.
And so what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned between practicing medicine and then running a business and collecting money and paying people?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that I've learned that I was kind of, caught off guard with initially when I started was not collecting copays. was not, being firm about, you have to pay your copay before being seen. So a lot of times those patients didn't pay anything and they saw me. And then a lot of times they had a co-insurance. Co-insurance is basically where they have to pay something, but they won't know what that is until actually you bill the insurance company. So then they'll get a statement in the mail saying that you owe the physician. If you don't have a good biller or a good, staff of people who is following up on that and doing that for you, those patients may never ever get a statement.
Leaving money on the table.
Leaving money on the table. Yeah.
And then that kind of leads into what I've been thinking in the previous segment. You talked about coming to a practice where you had existing staff and you had to at some point find your own people.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear about that process, because there are a lot of people now, they have employees, they probably brought them in because, they're a friend or somebody wanted to help me out, but there gets a point where you realize this person is not adding value to my business.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that time for you.
Yep. So 2.5 years into being in that space of, sharing a space with another physician, sharing staff, and them not, I guess, handling their responsibilities like you expect them to.
Right.
Or even being disrespectful at times.
Oh, wow.
To someone who signs your checks, then you just have to kind of, put the big pants on and say, hey, this is something I can't stand for. Like,
Sure.
I pay you.
Sure.
And you just have to make that decision. And, it could be a struggle initially, especially if you haven't managed people before, outside of, owning your own practice. But you just haven't managed people. You got to find out, what, how you're going to go about doing that. Because it could be hard.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily hard just because I had a relationship with those people. It was hard because I didn't know how to. I didn't know when. You're wanting your business to succeed and you don't want to fail. So then there's that.
Yeah.
And you're not sure if you can do it on your own. So being 100% on your own, you just have to take the leap of faith. I mean, you've done it so far. You have learned so many things to
a lot of on-the-job training.
All the job training, you have learned so many things. And so I think it just came to like one day, me recognizing that some people can be disrespectful to their boss, and you just have to let them go.
Yeah.
And, trust in, God and the process of him getting you through this far. And just kind of making a decision.
Amen.
And just biting the bullet and just doing it.
I love that. And so it's something I've experienced as well on my end. So tell me, how long do you think it took before you found your core group of staff? Like, what was that time period?
Honestly, I already had it.
Wow.
When I started, someone reached out to me where I used to work in residency, and they said, we have the perfect person for you. And I was like, does she like OB? And can she move really quick? Because people know that I walk really fast, and I like to get things done, move it. And that's why I was saying, like, well, I have to answer these questions. I don't have that much to say. But, I just like to get things done. I like people to do it, learn how I like it and get it done. But I had this wonderful nurse, Latrice. She was my first nurse. She's been with me since day one.
Wow.
Wonderful.
And just listening to her and taking her advice on, she's like, Dr. Muse, if we need to do this, then I thought, okay, let's do that. Let's do that.
Being
What works for you?
open-minded.
And then me reaching out to her or sitting down with her one-on-one and say, hey, what do you think we need to do? And she remembers everything. Well, Dr. Muse, you said that you wanted to do this, and so this is the time now we need to do it.
Wow.
Things like that. So I hired Latrice. We left there after I found my own office manager, because that was the first fire that I did.
That's important.
So the office manager was the one that I actually fired. So since I was in his office space, you have to establish a middle company, LLC, which we ran all our payroll through.
Yes.
And so it's at that point when I said, you know what, today you don't work for me. And of course, I had to make that decision for me without having even talked to, my other quasi partner. And I say quasi because we didn't have any formal agreements with each other. We just formed an LLC, which is what we use to buy overhead and, payroll.
So I kind of want to talk about that legal lesson, because then you had to break up, right?
Right.
And that was its own ordeal. And so when we get back in the next segment, that's what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
You've been listening to GRINDSET, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network, and we'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Williams Brack, co-host of GRINDSET. The insight you gain from us and our guests will motivate you to take the leap into entrepreneurship. Make sure to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast provider.
GRINDSET on the KUDZUKIAN Network. KUDZUKIAN! GRINDSET on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Welcome back to GRINDSET. We're here with Dr. Katosha Muse, President and CEO of Muse Primary Care and Obstetrics. And we're talking about when you have to break up legally and formally for somebody, but you don't have the formal agreements in place. And I think the attorneys like not Dr. Carly McCullough, but Attorney Carly McCullough will say, amen, let's hear this story.
It's important.
So let's talk about your breakup without any formal agreements, legal agreements in place, but you had an LLC together.
Right. So as long as you have your LLC, you don't have to have any agreements with someone who you're just sharing an office space with. You can put something on paper just between two of you, but it most of the time it's not legally binding.
Yep.
And you just basically agree that, you're going to be sharing overhead, which, you really don't have to say that. Mm-hmm. You can, the binding part comes where you have this office space together. That may be the only legal document that you actually have.
The lease.
Okay. Exactly. And either one of them can decide they're going to leave. I just was, the first person to leave, and they were actually stuck with, the lease and meeting that overhead on the lease.
So how do you get out of the lease? When you decide to leave, do you pay a breakup fee? Or?
I did not break my lease.
Okay.
I just left when the lease was up. I did not renew it.
Okay.
So you didn't really have any legal fireworks. You just timed it properly.
And I knew
That's
this
smart.
going in because, in order to acquire that practice, that was also a legal process.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a legal process with the person who's actually selling it, because then she has medical records that she has to, that she's responsible for, or the doctor's responsible for. And so there had to be a legal process in place for me to either acquire those records, because the records actually belong to the patient.
Wow.
But for me to house those records, I had to take ownership of that, because records have to be kept in possession, especially if they're on paper, for 10 years.
We can get really technical in the medical space, right?
Can get really
I had
technical.
no clue. So I'm going to switch gears just a little bit, right? So we've talked about your practice, how you got started. You brought in a great staff, and you're doing some great things in the community. I want to know, how do you balance it all? So you are a wife, you're a mother, you're an entrepreneur, and a healthcare provider. So we're learning there's a lot to that healthcare provider component, but how do you balance it all? And is there a time when everything conflicts for you?
Oh, most definitely.
We're always looking for a magical answer.
You say no, they don't conflict.
No, it's perfect.
As a wife, when I was presented with this opportunity, of course, he was the first person that I said, hey, I have this opportunity. Well, I'll take that back. God was the first person. So I had to pray on that, to see if it was going to be a right fit for me and the family. And then, I asked him, I have this opportunity. It's going to entail this, I'm going to call for myself, late nights, which it wasn't too different from the training that I had to, do to deliver babies.
Right.
And so he was like, yeah, I think this is good. I think this is good. Financially, it's a good thing for you. It's probably going to open up a lot of doors for you to do other things. And so I said, okay. And so then from there, we decided to go ahead. Because like I said earlier, to acquire capital, which was $180,000,
yes,
you have to leverage your house. And of course, you're putting my house.
That's a big decision. Big decision.
Something
Very
happened,
supportive.
like, where are we going to stay? That sort of thing. So that, I have a 7-year-old daughter, and there may be some things that she has to do with school, with programs, things like that, I can't make it to. Fortunately, I have been able to make most things, because as a business owner, or, own your own practice or business period, you make the time.
That's right.
For that. And so the first time that I did that, actually was in practice for a year. And I said, you know what? This week I'm not going to be here. It felt so good.
Really?
It did. It felt so
Good.
good to say, hey, block my schedule.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be here.
I love that.
And so, yep.
And then on GRINDSET, we always talk about self-care. So you really just answered it. So you took a week off that first year.
Took a week off.
Is that something you continually do to make sure you have time for yourself?
I do. I say that I need to go on a small vacation. It could be a small road trip, Nashville, Atlanta, hop on a plane, go somewhere for the weekend, at least every 90 days.
Every 90 days?
Every 90 days.
Can I try that for my own business?
You should.
'Cause that sounds amazing.
You should. Definitely.
Okay.
And so what's the fun? You're a solo practitioner.
Yes.
What's the financial impact of not being there? Or is it just kind of mitigated by the staff that you've hired?
So you mean as far as
if you're taking a week out, right?
Oh, yeah. If I'm taking a week out, most of the time if I know that, then I kind of, relay that to the staff. And they can kind of fix it to where, I'm seeing so many patients before I go or after I come back. I try not to be bombarded on those days when I get back initially. Okay. So that's not too overwhelming for me, especially if I've been on call, prior to that, or I'm going to be on call right afterwards. But like I said, with babies, you don't get paid until 9 months later anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're making a substantial amount of money while you're out.
Got it.
Or you're losing a substantial amount of money while you're out.
One thing I would love to know as a business owner, what advice would you give to someone that's out there listening now thinking about, I enjoy getting this comfortable paycheck every 2 weeks, but they have this burning passion that they want to do something else. What advice would you tell someone?
I would, recommend them, of course, keeping the day job, but figuring out how they can implement that passion, on a day-to-day basis. It could be that they're not doing it every single day. Okay. It could be them starting out doing it 1 day a week and kind of building up to that.
Yes.
Trying to find cheap ways to get that out there to people. Social media has been great with that aspect. And then, figuring out, well, how much money can I afford on marketing? I would tell you now, I don't spend a lot of money on marketing. Okay. Right now I do register tapes with Kroger and Collierville, and I'm only doing that because I'm trying to build up a different aspect of my practice because I know that I can't deliver babies forever.
What's a register tape?
Register tape, when you go to Kroger and you get your receipt, it's on the back of your back of your receipt.
Oh. Yeah, that's smart. And mothers shop at the grocery store.
Mothers shop at the grocery store.
That's pretty clever.
Exactly.
That's pretty smart.
Okay, so final question.
Yes.
Any parting thoughts for our listeners, particularly the young physician who's looking to go into private practice on their own?
Right. I would tell them, don't be scared to do it. I would also tell them to minimize, going down the credentialing route. Self-pay, cash-based services is going to be the way to go. However, I do feel, 10 to 15 years from now, that trend of medicine come back to private practice is going to be, back in full effect. Okay. But cash-based services, thinking about ways that they can, offer, primary care to patients without having to go through the insurance companies. So my advice, and this is what I'm doing right now, is mostly concierge or direct care to patients who actually need it. These could be elderly patients. It could be sons and daughters who want their service for their mom or dad or their grandparents, executives who don't have time to go to the doctor, but they, get their wellness checks every year. They pay a lot of money for those. Some companies pay thousands of dollars for you to have your executive checks. But I would definitely recommend not going down the insurance route, though.
Insurance out here making it hard for people.
I'm telling you. And please let us know, how can we find you if there are any listeners that would love to become one of your patients? Give us all of your contact information.
Sure. If you are looking for a primary care, you don't want to, visit a huge office setting. It's me. I have 2 staff. Usually I can get you in and get you out. You can reach us online at museprimarycare.com, Facebook. Just type in Muse Primary Care, or Instagram. You can call us at 901-590-2565 and make an appointment. I can see you for whatever it is that you need to be seen for. If you are a pregnant female looking for a great doctor, I'm not tooting my horn, but I've gotten good reviews on Google.
Toot toot.
All right, Google.
Facebook. And I want to thank everybody who has left a review and have given me good reviews. So that's the best way to get in touch with us.
And what's that phone number again?
901-590-2565.
Dr. Muse, thank you so much.
I want to thank you guys for having me, and I appreciate all of your hospitality. It's been great.
It's been a lot of fun.
Beautiful. Well, you've been listening to GRINDSET, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network, and we'll be right back with our closing thoughts.
Well, no, you had the Buffalo game, but understand New York and upstate New York, they are not moderates by any measure.
They may not,
right?
They may not be, but guess what? Even conservatives get sick, and I think everyone realized that if healthcare was going to be threatened, they were going to be in bad shape.
That is not how they looked at it.
These heroes that you're talking about just responded to their constituency. The system worked. I think that's what happened. Funking up your airwaves and jamming the good information in your ear. Once again, it's Funky Politics.
Funky Politics.
Funky Politics.
On the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Welcome back to GRINDSET. We just finished interviewing Dr. Katosha Muse, founder and CEO of Muse Primary Care. And, you know, this could be an episode strictly for medical professionals, or you can pull out whatever nuggets you need to kind of educate and motivate yourself. And some of these major keys go across the board, regardless of the industry you're in. And number one is, don't be afraid to learn on the job. On the job training is real. I think you should pursue your passion and just continue to learn as you go along in your business. Two, make time for what's important. And if you are running your own business, you will definitely have the opportunity to do that without having to put in vacation time. 3, self-care is important. We've heard this from guest after guest after guest, and we heard it again tonight from Dr. Muse. 4, if you're in the medical field, as best you can, minimize credentialing and focus more on cash-based services, because, you know, it's been proven time and time again from our medical professionals that working with insurance companies can be difficult sometimes. And so with that, focus on way to kind of get money in sooner, and that's cash-based services. And then, you know, if you're sitting in the office or you're working in a medical practice, go ahead and pursue your dream.
And so my woman power quote for the week is from Oprah Winfrey. It says, surround yourself with only people who are going to lift you higher. And what really captured my attention from Dr. Muse was her sharing when she knew it was time to get staff that was loyal to her and that would move her practice forward. So I think this is a great reflection of her story.
That's a great quote by Oprah.
Thank you.
And Dr. Muse did kind of exhibit the spirit of that quote. So thank you. It was a really good one.
Thank you.
You've been listening to GRINDSET, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network, and we'll see you next week.
GRINDSET. Executive producer, Epicenter. GRINDSET is directed, produced, and distributed by KUDZUKIAN.